Free practice 2 for the GT4 European Series is set to get underway here at Spa-Francorchamps. The GT4 European Series, one of the key support races for this weekend's total 24 hours of Spa, and the session due to get underway in the next few minutes' time. They've already had 1 hour of free practice. We don't get the grid decided, of course, until the qualifying period tomorrow, so this is a last opportunity for drivers to cycle through to gain, if need be, a little bit more track experience. And this session, as I say, is an hour long, and we're about 5 minutes away from it getting underway. Titles are on the line this weekend. Number 22, the Porsche Cayman 718. The GT4 of Bastian Buus and Jan Kasperlik. They've won 6 of the 8 races in Pro-Am thus far and scored consecutive outright wins in the last 3 races. They could, of course, leave as champions. Certainly it has been an excellent season thus far for them, and there's no suggestion that that form is going to dip over the course of the weekend here. So the field with 16 cars in total. GT4 somewhat affected this year by the COVID nature of the world, but it's still a quality lineup. We've got the Toyota Supra, once more of Stéphane Lemeret and Gaël Castelli, taking on the BMWs of Cembolo Fazi and Jagish Gedik. There's Faith Ayhan and Ibrahim Okiai driving the second car. As ever, Jörg Wiebahn and Nikolai Müller-Madsen are going to be worth watching, and there's plenty to look for within the Porsche contingent as well. We have the Pro-Am, Silver and Am competitions, and the cars will venture to the circuit, as I say, very shortly indeed. Maurizio Fondi returning to the Autolando Sport team to partner Dario Cerati, and it's the first time he comes to the GT4 European Series since the back end of 2018. Giuseppe Getzi shares the sister car with Andreas Meil, and Faith Ayhan joins the Borusan Automotive Motorsport BMW squad for here as well. We've got 2 one-hour races, and the pit stop window between them, 20 and 40 minutes, and a 92-second window, but that is looking much further ahead, as there you see the Faith Ayhan BMW ready to go. The times from the earlier session topped by Bastian Buus, new to car racing this year, but acquitting himself very, very impressively indeed to go ahead of the more experienced, very highly regarded Nikolai Müller-Madsen. And then third in the session this morning was Alfred Nilsson, the Swede, with Joachim Walder, the 2 Swedish drivers in fact sharing that car, but it was Alfred Nilsson who was the quicker of the 2. There is the Toyota, Stéphane Lemeret, at his home circuit, sharing as ever with Gaël Castelli. And that has been a car that's been quick, if a little bit out of luck, over the course of the races thus far. But the Toyota GR Supra, GR for Gazoo Racing, still very much a potential front-running car this weekend. So in a few moments' time, they'll have the cars released onto the circuit. And as I say, this doesn't actually affect the grid, it's just an opportunity for the teams to do a little bit more running and to give some circuit experience to their drivers where required. So out they shall pour very shortly. Championship began at Imola in this very weird season that we've had, with the 2 races there largely being dominated by the BMWs that were hard to beat that weekend. The first race at Imola fell to Bas Schouten and Gabriele Piana, ahead of the Théo Nouet and Valentin Asclot Aston Martin. Third being the BMW of Cembolo Fazi and Jagish Gedik. Right, cars now blast their way out on track. Schouten and Piana were the silver winners that first weekend. Pro-Am honours went to Cembolo Fazi and Gedik, and the winning Am car was Paolo Meloni and Stefano Valli. Race 2, going back to Imola, was another win for Schouten and Piana. So the BMW had a very good weekend. It was Stéphane Lemeray and Gaël Castelli who'd been low on fuel in race 1 but got second in the second race, and then Jan Kasperlik and Bastien Bus taking third place, and with it their Pro-Am class win. Schouten and Piana again were the winners of silver, and the top Am, as has become a bit of a trend, Nico Gomar and Gilles Vannelet. So the field pouring out onto the circuit for this 60-minute session. Another crew that's gone well this year, and they are in the entry, or at least the car is, but a different driver lineup. Xavier Lloveras and Luc Ibanez, but Xavier Lloveras with Rafael Villanueva partnering him this weekend. They had a win, did Lloveras and Ibanez, at Misano in the third race, ahead of the double Imola winners Bas Schouten and Gabriele Piana, and third there was Jörg Wiebahn and Nikolai Muller-Madsen, who with that took Pro-Am honours, with Lloveras and Ibanez having scored silver success. And the best Am is the only driver to do the races on his own, Bob Herber, who's made a bit of a habit, despite an extra pit stop penalty for going solo, because the regulations don't really encourage it. He's quick enough to overcome that, keep on winning. So Bob Herber took honours first time out in race 1 at Misano. The second race there, incidentally, gave Aston Martin the first overall victory of the year. Theo Nue, from his disappointment at Imola, with Valentin Asclot successful, with the V8 Racing Chevrolet finishing second there. Timon Nabors and Job Raponge coming home in second spot. Bas Schouten and Gabriele Piana having a third place in the fourth round of the championship. Kasperlik and Bastien Bus very much the drivers to beat in Pro-Am over the course of the season, hence they're here on the verge of a championship. From Misano, the next stop was the Nürburgring doubleheader. That was honours in the first race, a second win of the year to Lloveras and Ibanez. As you look at Chembol at Bazi's BMW, lighting up the timing screen with purples. One car that we had at the Nürburgring was the McLaren, the Tour Motorsport McLaren, but that's not here this weekend for myriad reasons. But the BMW, with all that grunt, could be quite a good car to have around here. In GT3 terms as well, it's been a good day for BMW, because one of the M6s has topped the times for the pre-qualifying session for the Total 24 Hours of Spa. So could this be a very good weekend all round for BMW? We shall see, as Chembol at Bazi comes now then down into the pith path. Got the road to himself at the moment as well, so the BMW not having to think about the traffic here. So Bola Bazi, who's going to set the benchmark time out of all of this, because he's the fastest driver thus far in all the sectors, but it's the first proper flying lap that anybody has done. It's of course a long time from the session starting before you actually need to worry about your first flying lap time, because the installation lap is long. Then your flying lap, then the times will come down anyway. So they're up to the timing line. Comes Chembol at Bazi. What's he going to be able to record? Target time becomes a 2:36.430 for him. Again, we're not talking grid positions out of all of this. It is purely free practice. It is purely for the team's interest and the driver's peace of mind, so they know exactly what the car is up to, what the track conditions might be like, and gaining experience of it all the time in many cases. But it doesn't affect the grid. There's the car of the moment, number 22. So it is Bastien Bous going first. He's the quicker of the two drivers, with Jan Kasperlik as his co-driver. And remember, they have won the last 3 races outright, never mind their class wins. So as Bastien Bous has just got faster and faster and faster, so this has become a car, even though it's a Pro-Am, that can fight for overall honours, and has done so very successfully indeed. Kasperlik and Bous just got 6 class wins, 5 of which are on the bounce, so it's been a very, very good year indeed for them. There's the championship leading Porsche then, coming out of Pouhon. And again, the way that Chambolet Bazzi is going, he's always seemingly able to just find the clear track space that nobody else either can or not with the same ability. The Porsche also, though, is doing a good job at finding a clear road, so Bastien Bous up to record his first flying lap time. Way, way wide coming out of Blanchimont, and that is potentially going to be a part of the circuit where the officials will clamp down. In Formula Renault that we had a little while ago, it was here on the exit of the bus stop where people were going very, very wide and losing lap times, but single-seaters can gain an advantage perhaps at different places than a GT car can. So over the line goes the 4 litre 718 Club Sport. Chambolet Bazzi the fastest at the moment. The Toyota here, as the sun starts to set. This has got at the wheel of it Stéphane Lemeray. And 66, the sister car, Antoine Poty. Into the chicane. This car yet to really show its hand. It's 7th fastest, but I think there's more to come from the long-nosed Toyota. Up to the timing line, the sister car behind it, but going way, way, way wide there was Stéphane Lemeray. So there is Antoine Poty through La Source. So Antoine Poty climbs the hill and again found the road to himself. Not any traffic to worry about for the moment, although as people start to make pit stops to adjust things, to cycle through drivers, the road might end up a little bit busier at times. Antoine Poty with the nose dipping, hits the brakes, slides the car into Les Combes. Makes a good noise, this car, as he rattles over the curb. And now plunges downhill once again, way up onto that high curb on the outside of Les Combes, and drops down the hill once again. Line into the corner, perhaps not ideal, but Antoine Poty survives. Into Pouhon now. So right now, Chambolet Bazzi is the fastest from Valentin Asclot, with nearly a second between the pair of them, although I suspect that that's a gap that will come down over the course of this session. So Antoine Poty looking good in the sectors, but Bastien Bous looking better than anybody. Number 22 Porsche, 2 purples now, so 21 and 22. In fact, 22 has just gone over the timing line. Bastien Bous, yes, to go fastest of all. So champion-elect up at the top of the times, Bastien Bous, 2:33.502, and Nikolai Müller-Madsen is on a quick lap as well, his teammate. The Allied Racing duo That's Antoine Potty into the chicane at the bus stop. First and second sectors, both personal best, but then does he go a little bit deep into the chicane and then rides the curb? So Antoine Potty may have compromised his efforts here. Let's see as he comes up towards the timing line now, goes through and will go 10th fastest. So the lap time was a 2:37.512. It was an improvement, but in terms of his place in the classification, doesn't do a great deal. Now this is the BMW from the Swedish Championship, Alfred Nilsson at the wheel of it, making the way now to the bus stop chicane. Through the right, through the left, up towards the timing line. Now he will come. And Alfred Nilsson 6th fastest. So Bastian Bus the fastest, but another improver 4th, Rafael Villanueva, taking over the Luke Ibanez seat for the weekend. Downhill drops Alfred Nilsson as up towards the timing line comes Joop Raponge, and Raponge in the Chevrolet Camaro. Great noise that car makes, rumbles its way out of the hairpin. The V8 racing team, what else could it run other than a yank tank? Thunders downhill now. A lift at the foot of the hill, back onto the gas, climb out the other side, over the curb goes Raponge. Now the car snarls its way up towards the Le Corne sector. So neither of the Chevrolets thus far have got a time, nor does Raponge, nor does Duncan Houseman, his teammate in the second car. So down towards Bruxelles comes Raponge. Now, granted, it would be a personal best because he hasn't really done a proper flying lap time thus far, but sector time's being improved upon by the Dutch driver. Goes downhill. First full season of car racing as well, bear in mind, for Joop Raponge, coming out of karting. Shares the car, the number 17 Camaro, with Timon Nabours. Valentin Asclode, second fastest in the Aston. We've not yet seen the car, but it's second fastest, and he has now pitted. So Valentin Asclode in, possibly to give way to Theo Nue. Depends really how the teams want to break up the free practice duties. Do you give one session to an individual driver rather than switch and swap about so that they get a full amount of track time? Or do you treat this more like a dummy qualifying session at the end, so you put your faster driver in to see what lap time can be wrung out of the car? Different teams have different approaches. So Joop Raponge goes 7th at the end of that lap. Was an improvement. It was worth persevering with. Remember, free practice, not the grid. There is the Stéphane Lemeray Toyota. Toyota Gazoo Racing France. The entrant to the cars, he goes way wide at Pouhon. So bit by bit, the Gazoo Racing brand expands around the world. You've got the World Rally team, you've got the sports car team, of course, in the WEC. You've got a British touring car team. There's a Toyota Gazoo Racing in British GT and here in European GT4. So CMR, Classic Modern Racing, operates these cars with a little tricolor on the side. Stéphane Lemeray's hustling on though, isn't he? Because he's up on both of the previous two sectors here. way out wide at Blanchimont is the car of Antoine Potty, and also wide, measuring his pace against his teammate Stéphane Lemeray. Still no time for Duncan Houseman, but he's done 4 laps, so they've all been pit laps. As to the pit lane goes Lemeray in the background. So Antoine Potty across the timing line and improves to go 6th. There, in one of these splendid-looking Porsche Caymans, the Getzi Spedizione car is Giuseppe Getzi's car himself, and it's Andreas Mayr at the wheel of it at the moment. Mayr up to Les Cons. Bounces over the curb, but survives the moment. But he's down in the first sector. I'm still getting worried about Duncan Houseman. Still no time offered up. Number 66, Antoine Potty, being warned about track limits at turn 4, which is coming out of Les Cons up through out of Eau Rouge up through Radion. Andreas Mayr here up to the pit path. So the Italian driver, bronze graded. And the Porsche up now to Blanchimont. Again, the road to himself. And the Auto Orlando Sport car eventually bails from the lap, heads for the pit lane. There's 21, the Allied Racing entry for Jörg Wiebahn and Nikolai Moller-Madsen. Suggesting it's Moller-Madsen at the wheel because it's sideways and it's quick. It isn't it, Nikolai Moller-Madsen, yes. So the Danish driver, perhaps a little bit nonplussed not to be the star turn. Bastien Bus has not made it look pedestrian, far from it, but he's in his first year of car racing been outstanding as Bastien Bus. There's Moller-Madsen then into Pouin. Quite nervous the way he has the car set up, sort of flicks it in. It's a bit more twitchy than 1 or 2 other cars that we've seen in the session. But it works for him. Sideways there into Les Cons, catches the slide, but it does push him out wide. So Moller-Madsen is certainly pressing on, and he has already been warned about the track limits coming up through Radion. Having said a while ago I was getting worried about Duncan Houseman, I'm still worried. He's still not been out there to do a lap time. So number 99, the car that he shares with Jorge Cabezas, the Spanish driver, sitting in the pit lane and losing now, he lost 20 minutes, a third of the session. There it is. So Chevrolet Camaro number 99 in the pit road. And all the attention, as you can see, is around that left rear corner. So Duncan Houseman's an experienced driver. If he feels something's not right, he can relay all that to the team. He knows this car inside out. He's raced them for a long, long time. Their number 15 Mercedes, double winning car this year, Xavier Lloveras and Luc Ibanez. But here it is Xavier Lloveras sharing with Rafael Villanueva, who did drive the car at the start of the session. So they had a driver change there to give Lloveras seat time now. So there the Mercedes brakes hard into the bus stop, a little bit deep maybe, but onto the power goes Lloveras, and he's up towards the timing line now. So where is this going to put him? He's currently only 8th fastest, so Lloveras stays 8th fastest on that lap as well. No improvement there. Rumbles his way downhill into Eau Rouge. So Lloveras trying to improve upon a 2:35.6, which is the time that was done by Villanueva. But as yet, he just can't find it. And interestingly, just for the purposes of thinking ahead to the 24 Hours of Spa, the Total 24 Hours of Spa, which is starting on Saturday afternoon, we're nearly at 6 o'clock, and it's starting to go not dark, but the light is now fading quite noticeably. So some of the teams, I think, will be quite interested to assess when the light really goes when it comes back in the morning. We have a driving standards flag now to number 66, Antoine Potty, for disrespecting the track limits. There, out of Pouhon comes the Mercedes. So this is still Lloveras, still pressing on. Giuseppe Getzi is the next target in terms of a time, and he is only 0.02 of a second quicker. So that's what Lloveras is aiming for. Can he find 2 more thousandths of a second and gain 1 place in the times? Or, sorry, equal, therefore 3 thousandths he would find to go ahead. So there's Lloveras, a wheel over the white line. The Mercedes then way wide at Blanchimont. Do that repeatedly, and Steve Burns, the race director, is going to get quite grumpy about it. Up to the bus stop comes the Spanish driver, and like many, he's a little bit deep going into it. Flicked through the second element up towards the line. How wide does he go? Wide enough, but not excessively so, I don't think. And the lap puts him 5th fastest, so it was a good run, that. So Xavier Lloveras, 2:35.078. Just out of the bus stop is coming Jan Kasperlik at the wheel of the championship leading number 22 Porsche. But bails from the lap, makes a pit stop. So not far off the halfway point, and only now has Duncan Houseman ventured out again in the second of the Camaros. So clearly the car has an issue. Is it now dialed out? Let us wait and see. Through goes number 15. Xavier Lloveras, whose next target in the times now is Antoine Potty, who is 24 thousandths ahead. More people being warned about track limits. Jörg Wiebahn, who's now getting a driving standards flag, and also car number 13, Ibrahim Okyay in the BMW. So we have Guevara still circulating. Another one for the pit lane. Number 75, the second Auto Lando Sport Porsche. Dario Cerati and Maurizio Fondi. Xavier Lloveras leaps over the curb. This Spanish outfit that has moved to Mercedes this year, forsaking the Ginetta that it ran last season and the season before that, feeling maybe that the turnkey Mercedes was a more reliable approach. And it's certainly been a good decision, as I say, with those 2 race wins this year. Up to second on that last lap was Lloveras, so another improvement. All of a sudden he's found his time, hasn't he? So playing himself in gradually, but now the pace really coming. That last lap was a 2:34.3, so finding the best part of a second. There is Duncan Houseman. So finally we've got the V8 Racing Chevrolet circulating, having been in the pits for over 10 minutes. Growls down the hill, makes a great noise, Camaro, and it's on full song, but is the pace of Jorge Carathas going to be enough to help Houseman get a good result this weekend? Duncan, multiple winner 10 times of the Gear touring car race at Macau, Dutch GT champion, brother of fabled Porsche Super Cup dominator Patrick Houseman, and Duncan then up now towards the Les Combes sequence of corners. See on the wing end plates, the car goes through shot any moment. The little DHG logo on the rear wing, there it is. David Hart's property developing company. Olivier Hart, David's son, did drive this car early last year, but sponsorship continues. Duncan Houseman downhill, heading towards Pouhon. Is this going to be a proper flying lap time? Well, the first sector is a 43.6. That's 0.3 down on the absolute best of Bastien Bous, but I still think this should get the car quite near the front this lap. Through the pith path. One car now being investigated for speeding in the pit lane, and it's Theo Nue in the Aston Martin, number 27. Duncan Houseman, absolute best in that middle sector. So let's see where this lap time is going to put him. Houseman out of Blanchimont, over the curb, into the bus stop now. Turn right, turn left, up towards the timing line. It's a 2:33.3 to beat. He's got a chance. Up towards the timing line. 2:33s, yes, second fastest, brilliant lap. So Duncan Houseman goes second quickest, and that is 1/10 of a second exactly down on Jan Kasperlik and Bastien Bous's fastest Porsche. So it may have been a long time coming, but we've got there. We've had the time, and so now that car, second fastest, big wobble though going into Eau Rouge, sorts it out just about. So second fastest this Chevrolet. It runs in the Silver Cup. So Duncan Houseman down now towards the right of Bruxelles, and he's going to get a driving standards flag for not respecting track limits. And also being warned about track limit abuse is number 98, which is the Lestrup Racing BMW. Alfred Nielsen we saw earlier on, and that car is 9th now. It's dropped down, but it's still in his hands. This is the second of the Chevrolets. This is Timon Nabours at the wheel. Goes through and is 10th quickest on that lap with a 2:35.272, best of the session. Other improvers of late have included Alfred Nielsen. So despite getting the driving standards flag and being warned about track limits, he has also been hustling on to good effect. So uphill goes Timon Nabours, still 10th quickest. What can he do in sector 1? That should be about 43 seconds. It was going to be a good one, and he turns into Les Combes, but it's 46.5. So, sorry, 44.5. So it's not brilliant. It's not bad, but it's not brilliant. It's about a second down on the absolute best. So 26.5 minutes still on the clock for this second free practice period. Others that are still circulating: Bob Herber, 15th quickest, the one solo driver that we have as ever. Still can't be persuaded to have a co-driver. This is the car that is 5th and has been a race-winning car on occasions this year. It won at Misano outright, Théo Nouet and Valentin Asclot, and it's Théo Nouet who is behind the wheel of it at the moment. The car run by the AGS event Team Racing Motorsport, the Vantage AMR GT4, and Théo Nouet, the 17-year-old French GT4 racer, came from French Formula 4, so he's done the karting single-seater route and then changed his tack, goes to GT cars. Up over the timing line, 5th quickest. Downhill goes the Aston once more. And Nouet putting in a lot of commitment to this lap, so let's see. The last one that he did was a 2:35.1, which was a 10th down on his earlier best. So Nouet is certainly responding well now to the challenge from the opposition. And here in replay is Bob Herber. No, here in replay is number 30, the Sellerslag car of William Meyer and Esteban Muth. You can see coming out of Radion how wide people are pushing, some way over the white line, way up the multicoloured curb there as well. So a great variety of lines being taken, and that's why constantly the race director is having to warn people about their zealotry. Théo Nouet downhill once more. And again, way wide coming out of Pouhon there. So another example of drivers pushing, pushing, pushing. If you get warned in a free practice session, it doesn't really matter. In qualifying, might do, because you start to lose lap times, and of course in the races time penalties come. But now is, if there is a good time to exceed the track limits, this is it. So you know where the limits are, how hard you can push before the race director stamps down on you, but also you're not going to lose as much as you would in a qualifying or race situation. 75 Porsche for Orlando Sport. That's the car that Dario Cerati shares with Maurizio Fordi. It is Dario Cerati at the wheel of it, the septuagenarian Italian, 72 years of age he is. Way wide at Blanchimont, but Dario Cerati, an inveterate enthusiast. There's not much he's not raced really in Italian GT terms over the years, and he's not missed many seasons either since he started racing. Theo Nue desperate to get past the Cayman, but he can't yet do so as he comes wide out of the bus stop up towards the line once again. Drops downhill, and 22 minutes on the clock in this session. So Jan Kasperlik, having taken over the number 22 Porsche, the car that's quickest in the session, remains at the top. Jorge Cabezas has now taken over from Duncan Heisman, so number 99 driver change. There, number 13, the Boroshan Automotive BMW. Ibrahim Okyay is at the wheel of it. This is the car that he shares with Faith Ayan. In the pit lane currently, Bob Herber, and also Giuseppe Getzi, Jörg Wiebahn and Jan Kasperlik, both of the Allied Racing Caymans, or Caymen, are in the pit lane. Bob Herber in the AM competition in his Mercedes. Dario Cerati, that we looked at earlier, he is the slowest, and Stéphane Lemeray here still pushing on to see whether he can improve, but this is his first flying lap since a pit stop. So into the pit lane comes the Toyota. So this is the Supra of Stéphane Lemeray. Jörg Wiebahn has been there for a while in the Dorian-back car that he has taken over from Nikolai Müller-Madsen. But even though it seems to have been a long stop, there's nothing obviously wrong. Nikolai Müller-Madsen leaning in, having a word with Jörg Wiebahn. Back out on track, number 15 Mercedes, that has gone back to Rafael Villanueva. So the Spanish team switching and switching again here. Villanueva presses on. Another former single-seater racer is Villanueva, the 19-year-old Spaniard. Drove over the last 2 years in Spanish F4 before coming into GT racing. But a bit of a, not last resort, but late decision at least for this weekend. Again, some drivers unwilling or unable to travel to every round, so the team's constantly having to have a plan B, and Villanueva would seem to be a pretty good plan B. Let's see what he can do first time out in the car to bring yet more pace out of this. One car that's missing, sadly, altogether because of the COVID-19 circumstances, the RN Vision STS racing team. Both of its BMW M4s absent, so Gabriele Piana, Bachhouten gone, and so too the Koen Bogart's Mark van der Aar entry. Real shame, because they were two competitive cars. So here, Villanueva up towards the bus stop. We've got another one under investigation now, but it's for speeding in the pit lane. Giuseppe Getzi being looked at. Villanueva hustles the Mercedes out of the bus stop, up towards the timing line. That lap was 1.4, 1.5 seconds, give or take, down on its earlier best. Number 17, Camaro, still at the helm of it, is Timo Nabuurs, having taken it over from Joop Raponge. And Nabuurs has done a personal best, as you see, in the first sector, but down in the middle, so this might not turn out to be an improvement unless the third sector is really heroic. Up towards the timing line he now comes. No, bails out of the lap altogether, in fact goes for the pit lane. So that, for the moment at least, is the lap done, the session done for Timo Nabuurs. Comes in, bails from the session currently. Makes his way to a stop. Team will do what is required, but it might be that part of this is a driver change now, cycling through the drivers. So there you can see Joop Raponge standing, waiting for another turn. Car up on its jacks. There's no requirement within the regulations to change tyres in the pit stops. It's purely in the driver change. But is going to be some work. And again, it's the same corner that was concerning them on the number 99 entry a little earlier. So maybe this is now a precautionary inspection. As you see the number 30 Mercedes here of Willem Meyer and Esteban Muth. Esteban Muth, who was another driver busy in the esports world during lockdown, former single-seater racer, and Willem Meyer is currently to be found 12th fastest in the Mercedes. As you can see, the light is fading fast now, so it's going to be not a dark end to the session, but it might be that not everybody stays out to the very end. So there is Meyer heading downhill. And this lap all of a sudden is looking good. Personal bests. So the session still with, what, quarter of an hour to go. Way out wide there, number 98 BMW. So that has now gone back to Joachim Walder. And another one being warned about track limits will be the Gilles Vannelet Aston, will it not? Number 89. Nico Gomar at the wheel of it. So drivers continuing to push, perhaps sometimes too hard. And there is the Willem Meyer Mercedes heading down once more into the Cours Paul Frere. Of all the drivers that have been a bit overly committed to their racing this year and getting behavioural warning points, how many are here? Well, one of them is Timothée Bure, who normally shares with Antoine Potty, but Wilfried Casalbon takes over that car. Johan van der Rum is not here either, and I mention him because he also has two, like Johan van der Rum. Christian Menno de Conte not here, Haban Tansu not here, Joel Prometheus sadly not here in the Cayman that's been very spectacular all season, and Jagish Gedig is here, so actually the majority of the naughty people have stayed away. You can see it's getting proper Spa now with the lights reflecting off the road. Still 13 minutes to go, but the drivers now encountering track conditions and light that they won't really need to worry about for the races. Now, Superpole for the GT cars tomorrow will be running at this time, so it's interesting to see how the light is now. Got spots of rain in the air as well there, being picked up maybe by the headlights. It wouldn't be Spa without a bit of rain, surely, would it? But if you're going for a pole position lap and it's fading light like this, it's going to be quite a challenge, I would have thought, tomorrow, to be able to be 100% confident in it. Brakes glowing, red hot. Joachim Wilder has certainly given the BMW a workover. Comes down the hill. So there the BM comes out of Pouhon. So track conditions starting to change. There is more in terms of spots of rain in the air. As you can see, the headlights picking it out. It doesn't seem to be all over the circuit, actually, where we're based on the start and finish area. Nobody has yet gone running for a coat or a hat, but there are cars coming into the pit lane with the wipers on. And now the race director is saying that the track is wet in certain places, so the cars have to have the lights on, irrespective of the darkness. If it's a wet road, he wants the lights on for safety purposes. But I think now we're going to have more and more people bailing. Yes, the pit lane is getting busy because you've nothing to prove. It's only free practice. It's getting wet. Why bother? There you see Joachim Wilder with a quick flick of the screen. And yes, more and more rain being picked up. Oh, it feels like Spa now, doesn't it? Dark, wet, slippy track. Wilder is staying out there for another 11 minutes. But you see all of a sudden how life has got very treacherous indeed out on track. The car's snaking its way up out of the chicane at the bus stop. Goes over the timing line, and don't forget they're on a Pirelli slick, and he's not going to get the car slowed down for La Source. That's an illustration of why most people have bailed, because there's nothing to be gained here. The only thing you're going to do is potentially damage the car. You can't go quicker. You might get a bit of knowledge of what the circuit's like in drizzle, but for the purposes of this session, why risk it? See, look, suddenly La Source is very wet indeed. Very treacherous, and everybody is now slowed right down. So one or two of the teams, I think, are going to wets just to see what the track is like, but most teams, I would have thought, would just park up now because there's not very much to be gained. You might want some mileage of what the circuit's like in wet conditions, but equally you'd hope that it would be dry for the races, but it is Spa. So free practice as well. There is a look at the run to Blanchiment. And at a much reduced pace, yes, is then 66. The now William Casalbon Toyota. So for CMR, Classic Modern Racing, Casalbon up to the bus stop, but is that going to be another one that goes in? Jörg Wiebahn has actually been tempted out for speeding under the pit lane rules, potentially Bob Herber is being looked at. They're going on to wets is 22. The Allied Racing Cayman. Adjustments to the brakes also being made now for the wet conditions. So that's the car that's fastest and has done only 8 laps. It's actually done the fewest laps of all. So this looks like it's still, even though it's the fastest, the car that's got a problem. It's not a quick fix, is it? It's lost most of the session being sat down there. Jan Kaspelik staying in the car. But with only 8 minutes to go, I would question whether that's going to go back out again. There is Joachim Walder, who has decided enough is enough is enough, and in he comes. So as the rain starts to get heavier, down the pit road comes Joachim Walder. Now there's number 15 ready to go back out, potentially. Is it on wets? That will be Rafael Villanueva, still shown as being behind the wheel of that car. So 7.5 minutes are on the clock. Villanueva good to go again. Mercedes growling as they're also tiptoeing round is Faith Ayan, who has decided it's worth having a look at the circuit. If the races are wet, yes, you'll get a bit of experience thereof. So Faith Ayan is on an out lap, and also Willem Meyer has gone back out again. But that's much, much, much worse than it was even a few minutes ago. Got to say, it looked wetter there than it does here, based on the start-finish line in the F1 pits, and there is not a drop of rain on my window. So it's certainly partly to do with the direction it's coming from, but it's worse at certain parts of Spa than others. Over the brow comes Faith Arhan. And the car tiptoes on. So with the wipers being busy and the headlights picking up the rain, Faith Ayan tiptoes through Pouin. The sister car, and we're a bit low on BMW representation, is 7th now. Jagic Jedich, 7th quickest in the other Boroshan automotive car. So again, it's a frustration for the championship. Just when you build, because of COVID regulations and restrictions, you lose again. So it's been a sort of nucleus of around the 16, 18 cars, but add them all together, it's a much, much stronger entry of everybody that's taken part over the course of the season. So we've got 3 cars on the track at the moment. This one, Gael Castelli, has gone back out in the number 8 Supra. And there is also Willem Meyer in the BMW, in the Mercedes, I should say. But these laps are going to be way, way slower. And the checkered flag has gone out. So the race director puts out the checkered flag on the basis that everyone's going slower and there's hardly anybody on the road anyway, and it's only free practice. So I think possibly Steve Burns, the race director, has decided that it's probably about time for a duvel and has called for the checkered flag. So there you go, session's at an end, which is about 4.5 minutes or 5 minutes early, but I don't think anyone's going to argue about that. It also means that the GT World Challenge Europe qualifying session for the Total 24 Hours of Spa can go bang on time, but the flag is out early. Another one being looked at for pit lane speeding, the BMW of Joachim Walder. So there the cars brought into the endurance pits to get them off the circuit quickly. For the purposes of the Total 24 Hours of Spa, the two pit lanes are joined together to make one, but here, because of the size of the entry, you can use the second pit lane, the extra pit lane, to get the cars off the track quickly and save yet more time. But it's properly horrible and wet out there, as you can see. So the cars head down the pit road, and Jan Kasperlik and Bastian Boos, even though they've done precious few laps, take the top time. So not many took the flag on the track, that's for sure. But now, as Spa looks very Spa, dark, wet, but all the pit building lights coming on, one thing that we don't have, I'm afraid, is the concert down at the foot of Eau Rouge, or the usual swarm of people, can of Jupiler in hand. So, at the end of the session, Allied Racing from V8 Racing, that's the way the times are. Porsche ahead of Chevrolet, Bastian Boos ahead of Duncan Heisman, Rafael Villanueva and Xavier Joveras Mercedes, next from Nikolai Müller-Madsen, with the Aston of Theo Nouet and Valentin Asclot, just outpacing Antoine Potti in the quicker of the two Toyotas. Gael Castelli and Stefan Lemere's sister car, only 8th fastest. Bob Herbert 15th, but ahead of Dario Cerati with the number 75 Porsche, but a tenth of a second splitting the top two at the end of the session. So we look forward, as ever in GT4 European Series, to two competitive races, and ideally on a dry track. And it was dry when they went out at the start, but it wasn't long before the order started to shuffle around, and looking competitive to begin with was the BMW number 12, the Borusan automotive car of esports champion for Formula Renault, Cembuluk Bazi. Another one that was pressing on with all good effect was Rafael Villanueva, sliding the Mercedes into Les Camps. Another one hustling was Antoine Potti, but it wasn't long before he started to antagonise the race director, Nikolai Müller-Madsen, leaning on the Cayman, hustling it through Blanchimont, stepping over the curb. But track limits became more and more of a factor as the session wore on. There's another example, perilously close to the barriers as well on the exit there of Speaker's Corner. Meantime, 22, Bastian Boos and Jan Kasperlik got themselves up to the top of the times. The question then was whether it would stay there, and the answer was yes, because even though everybody else seemed to be trying hard, track conditions began to deteriorate, and that gave the advantage into the Jan Kasperlik, Bastian Boos Porsche from Allied Racing. And there Joachim Walder discovering on slicks on a wet road just how treacherous it was, and that it probably wasn't really worth staying out. So we look forward to qualifying tomorrow, hopefully on a dry road. We'll see you for that. For now, from David Addison at Spa, bye-bye.